The strongest accounts in Call of Dragons aren't the one I learned the most. That sounds strange because whenever we see an incredible battle report, most of us immediately start copying the visible parts. The heroes, the artifacts, the pets, the talent tree. I used to do exactly the same thing. Then one replay made me realize I've been copying the result, not the reason it happened. And that was one of the mistakes I make back in the days when, especially with the infantry, because I'm mage main, and at the same time I saw a lot of players playing with the infantry, Goresh, obviously Kuma, and other infantry heroes, and I started seeing some crazy good reports. With those reports, I was like, why I'm playing mages? I'm going to just send infantry there, make like 50k merits and do it again and again and again till I finish my stamina of infantry. And that was something that, at one point I actually was doing, but the point was I was looking to get, some good reports. Now, I don't have those reports right now, but I saw like Goresh Kuma, I saw Li Kuan Kuma. I saw those heroes getting some crazy reports. So I start copying everything they have. The only difference I was having was I was using Venom Lizard, and when I check it out and saw the replay, how they're playing, I saw they was actually using Mosrock Auroch, and Mosrock Auroch in the close fight are way better from the Venom Lizard, because Venom Lizard deals damage every second, can be triggered once every 1 second, till Mosrock Auroch actually can get triggered up to 5 times. Up to 5 times per second. The thing is, here you have rage skill. The Venom Lizard is a passive skill. But anyway, this is the topic for other video. Just what I'm trying to say is I saw the replay, and this changed the way I was looking at these heroes. And those things was not actually shown in the report. At the report you just see something like, I actually have some crazy reports. Look at this report, brother. This is something like Goresh with Kuma, 75k severely wounded, on the enemy side is close to 400k. If you don't go a little more in deep in this report, you're not going to understand why this actually is happening. You're going to see only 93k from the Goresh with Kuma, and this report may actually make you go and do these builds at the end of the day without actually realizing what is happening here at the end of the day. One of my favorite things about making those videos is discovering that a replay often teaches a completely different lessons than the battle report. If you do have one of those moments yourself, I do love to hear them in the comments, and if you enjoy looking at the game this way, I'd be happy to have you back for the next discussion. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and also so far if you enjoy, hit one like. So after the replay, I stopped asking what is this player using. I start asking, what is this player doing differently? The answer was almost never another hero. It was usually a decision. Waiting instead of rushing, ignoring one fight to take the better one, leaving before getting surrounded. Those decisions never appear in the battle reports, but they often create the battle reports. And I'm going to share with you a single decision that I make back in the days when I was playing with my mages. Now, one of the things was, majority of the cases, 50% from the time, you're going to fight, even more, sometimes like 90% from the time, you're going to fight around choke points. And one of the decisions I make was never to go in the choke point. Some people was chasing till, for example, this line, and the enemy infantry immediately blink, they get trapped, and at the cost of like 2-3 infantry legions, your alliance is sacrificing like 10 or 15 mage legions or marksmen, mage and marksmen. So that was a very solid trade for the enemy. So the moment somebody cross or go at the bridge, that was the moment I attack. I never chase, I never, follow. And this single decision that I make actually improve my reports because I no longer get catched, because sometimes you may get catched and you may get escape. Especially when you go on the bridge, you may get strapped by infantry, you kill the infantry, you escape. But in the process killing this infantry, you're eating splash damage by the enemy. Sometimes you're the target of the enemy. You eat artifacts, you eat pets. It's just so much damage you're eating there. So the reports are looking very bad. But when I make this decision, actually improve my reports. And this is by watching some replays, because I see some people was getting some pretty decent reports, and I was wondering how those people are getting those reports. And then I just watching what decisions they was making. I was following one legion for like maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes. I see what he was doing, and I teach myself by watching what he was doing. And that left me with a much more interesting question. If the strongest players aren't winning because of the parts we're copying, what exactly should be copying instead? What surprised me even more was realizing that the strong accounts and strong players aren't the same thing. A strong account gives you more options. A strong player usually choose the better one. I've been watching incredible accounts throw away fights by chasing the wrong targets. I've been also watching much smaller accounts create value simply by choosing the better engagement. The account create the opportunity, the player decide what to do with it. And I'm going to give you an example of that, obviously, and that was free-to-play players who was on the top of the rankings. You know, when you open the rankings, do we have some rankings, and you open personal merits, the players here, and it was not only whales and krakens in the top places. Sometimes there was a free-to-play players. So I was wondering what those people was doing different to be at this place. In the majority of the cases, like 95% of the cases, it was actually a cavalry players who was moving around and picking their fights. With the cavalry, you strike faster and you escape faster. So this is an edge that the free-to-play players was using back in the days. I think even till these days, you can also do it. Just striking some AFK legions, some returning from the battle legions, some legion that is going outside, doing darkling patrols and stuff like this. And that was a great advantage for the small accounts. And this is a decision making for those accounts. Till for example, the whales and krakens, what they can actually do. The whales, and back in the day, something the whales was actually doing was throwing 5 infantry legions. It was throwing cavalry bombs. Till this day, I also see that there was just non-stop throwing. And when you open and you, for example, check some whale account or whatever, and seeing that this bad boy is having like 50, 60 million merits or even more, this is because the strong account give that opportunity. Till the weak account, you have to be clever and, as I mentioned, using the cavalry approach to actually strike with advantage on the battlefield. And that's changed the way I judge every battle report. Instead of asking how strong is this account, I start asking what's the same player still create value in the different account. If it's not a Kraken, if it's a free-to-play player, or if it's free-to-play player, if he was actually a Kraken. I think this, and honestly, I think the answer is yes, because good decisions scale with every account. Bad decision also. The next thing I noticed completely changed the way I copy players. I don't think experienced players copy builds very often. I think they copy ideas. The artifact might disappear from the meta. The damage might change the next season. Good decisions rarely do. That's why I start paying less attention to what players were using and much more attention to why they made the certain choices. And I'm going to give you an example about this in PvP, where I was, you know, when we was waiting to enter in the battle, we was like sitting, you know, there is one huge mage bow sitting here, other mage bow sitting there. But from time to time, there was some cavalry approach in our mage bow. And it was obviously with Nea because we didn't see that cavalry is coming, but it was like 4 or 5 times approaching, and one time it's actually approaching me. I mean, it's striking me, and when I see the report, I was broken. I was broken. And from there, I start actually investigating what make Nea Kuma that solid. Or this is one of the things, obviously it's going to be with counterattack, but what also make Nea Uruk that strong. The thing with Uruk and why I don't actually test it with Uruk is just because my Uruk is very bad builded. Maybe I'm going to invest in this bad boy at one point, but yeah, it's not developed. Till my Kuma is developed. And Uruk Nea with this artifact, wolf something, wolf woman of Hivor is something like teleporting, striking, and getting back. It's doing crazy amount of damage. But anyway, I just saw that small, how to say it, small decisions that this player was making, sending his cavalry there, and I was wondering what is going on till I actually get hit by this thing, and I start applying that idea, and I start investigating how I can make this actually working for me also. And it was actually working for me because I was actually able to get the majority of what is needed to make this legion working. Obviously, it's going to be, for example, with the Kuma, Nea Kuma is not going to be a Sand Lizard because I use Sand Lizard. It's going to be better to use Mosrock Ouroach because you're immediately going to trigger the rage skill of this pet, and he can hit 5 times per second. Till the Venom Lizard is actually can be triggered 1 time per second. So Mosrock Ouroach is just going to do crazy amount of damage in short amount of time because it's for 3 seconds, 5 times per second, and it's actually 2 hits. So it's crazy amount of damage. So I didn't actually copy everything, but I still, after investigating and see the behavior of how the player actually do that, I managed to get some good reports like 40k, 30k, and this is just you send it at 23k, you send it, and that's all. You get some good results by doing that. It was absolutely wild. And that's raised another question. If experienced players are copying ideas instead of buildings, how do they actually recognize which idea are worth copying? That's answer surprised me. I don't think experienced players are looking for the strongest account. They're looking for repeatable decisions. Something that I was looking with Nea and Kuma. Obviously, I'm going to use Kuma with my infantry, but I'm working over Nea Uruk at the moment. For one good battle doesn't prove much. Anyone can have one incredible report. What gets my attention is whether I see the same player making the same good decisions over and over again. And this is one of the things that I'm going to share in one of my incoming videos is the merits report I'm getting with my Goresh and Kuma. Look at this thing, 26k, 88k, 22k. We have like 24k, we have 93k merits. This is Goresh with Kuma. I mean, this is a video that's coming in this channel very soon. But anyway, this is a repeatable decision. So you can do it over and over and over again. It's going to give you, close to same results. They keep arriving. So yeah, what's get my attention is when I see same players making the same good decisions over and over again. They keep arriving at the right fight. They keep avoiding the wrong one. They keep finding value regardless of who they're fighting. That's no luck. That's a habit. I also want to thank everyone supporting the channel through the membership. A lot of those observations only happen because I spend hours watching replays, comparing battles, and testing ideas that doesn't always work at the first time. Your support gives me more opportunities to keep going, keep doing that. If you do like to support the channel as well, you can check out the membership below the video. Now, that also made me rethink something else. When a new player release, when a new hero release, everyone asks, should I invest? I still think that's an important question, but I don't think it's the first one anymore. The first question should probably be, what decisions does this hero allow me to make that I couldn't make before? Or what is supporting this hero? And I can give you a little, little example here, and this is Nea. I mean, Nea is a crazy example in this game because this hero for me is the best cavalry hero. I know there is maybe a one that is doing more damage, but Nea is giving you something that no one else is giving you. If I find her, and this is the camouflage. Since the majority of the people are playing zoom out, you cannot see the nays coming. And the surprise, till you understand somebody's attacking you, the surprise catch you off guard, and if it's not like you're extremely focused over the game, you're going to get like couple hits for free from there. And the other thing is, it's a cavalry hero, immediately striking. It's just crazy good hero, something that is allowing you to do something different. Absolutely this now, absolutely same with Verdun, one of the new heroes in this game. This bad boy is reducing the defense of infantry when he's doing AoE with his rage spell. Is when deals diffused magic damage. Blah blah blah. When he hit multiple legions, it can reduce the defense of the infantry, 20% defense, and once maximum this skill damage for 10 seconds. This is crazy overpowered spell. Up to 40% reducing. Magic heroes up to 40% reducing the hero skill damage. It's basically making the mage so weak. The numbers here are crazy. So what this hero is doing is making the front lines of the infantry get killed more faster, making the enemy mages do less damage. Absolutely the same with the marksmen, because the majority of the marksman heroes is boosting the normal attack. When you reduce the normal attack, you reduce also the damage the artifacts do, you reduce the rage skill the marksmen are doing, you reduce the normal attack the marksman is doing, and marksman is having the biggest attack in this game. So, I can go over on and on and on explaining those things, but you see that what a new hero can actually give you, and you can clearly see what this hero is actually giving you. Because if the answer is it completely changed how I approach the fights, now you're looking at something much more valuable than raw stats. And I think that's the part and many of us incidentally skip. We compare power, experienced players compare possibilities. Looking back, I don't think copying strong accounts were even ever a mistake. It's helping me discover heroes, artifacts, downward trees, pets, all that's still valuable. The mistake was believing those things were the reason the account was strong. Now I think they're just the tools. The real advantages is thinking behind them. That's the part you can see in the you can't see in the screenshots. You have to watch the replay, you have to watch the decisions, you have to ask why something worked instead of simply what worked. And this is maybe one of the biggest change I make with my account, and that was not actually copying. I mean, from very long time I don't copy people decisions, because I make my content and my observation. So if somebody said I'm going to do it this way, I want to see how I'm going to do it from my way. And because people, is watching my videos and accept my decisions also, or at least my opinion. But one of the things that's changed completely how I approach the fights was exactly the example I give with the choke point. That was a game changing, and from there I started looking very closely the positioning. The other thing that changed everything completely was, for example, artifact execution. If I go maybe with this one, okay, this one, you're going to see that every artifact is having some letter here is T R A W Q And this is when you play zoom out, you can basically manually execute those artifacts, and you can try to catch mages or marksmen with your artifact, and like this doing way more damage to those troops instead of just hitting infantry when you use those artifacts on auto. I mean, there is just so many things just by watching what the players are doing you can see. So if there is one thing I do leave you with, next time you see an incredible battle report, don't start by looking at the heroes. Start by asking yourself one simple question: what happened before this report existed? Because I have this feeling that where the real lesson is usually hiding. I do generally like to know what you think when you watch a strong account, what the first thing you pay attention to, the build or the decision. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.